His case settled for $1.5 million.
Step 1. Type in 15 USC 1692. Click on the law. Scroll down and read specifically what they are in violation of. Open up Gmail. Type in your third-party debt collector's email. Copy the laws that they have violated. Paste it, send it, and get paid thousands of dollars. Now watch the rest of the video so you know exactly how to do this yourself.
The FDCPA stands for Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It was designed to eliminate abusive, deceptive, and unfair debt collection practices. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, or the FCRA, of 15 USC 1681 governs the access to consumer credit report records. So basically, this applies to all data furnishers. The bureaus have the power to submit, things on your credit report, and also debt collectors as well. We're going to be specifically covering third-party debt collectors. Now, as you can see here, 15 USC 1692 is the code, and there's sections of it from A to P. Now, do not get overwhelmed about this. It's actually very, very simple. A lot of people are not educated in law. We like to leave that up for the lawyers, but what's not very good about that is that, we are not really aware of our own rights. And as we do more studying and research in this area, there's a lot of money to be made here. Now, there's about a little more over a dozen of multiple sections that cover multiple different things that debt collectors majority of the time violate. There's even a law that says that if a debt collector sends you a prepaid post stampage in the mail, like if you ever got something in the mail from a third-party debt collector and it already says prepaid with no stamp, that's actually a violation. There's multiple interesting things. There's actually multiple different violations that debt collectors violate all the time. I'm sure you probably had debt collectors or dealt with debt collectors, but I could tell you 100% that if you would have knew this beforehand, you would have got anywhere from $1,000 up to $5,000 or more, because someone actually won up to $1.5 million from a debt collector, which is crazy. This is just crazy. So if you have any kind of bad debt, if you're dealing with any kind of debt collectors, you could be sitting on piles and piles and piles of money and not even being aware of it. Communication in connection with debt collection. Without the prior consent of the consumer given directly to the debt collector or the express permission of a court of competent jurisdiction, a debt collector may not communicate with the consumer in connection with the collection of any debt. So basically it's saying that if a debt collector communicates with you without your consent about the debt, they're in violation. So what they're supposed to do is actually contact you and say, hey, we believe that this is your debt and we want to communicate with you about it to kind of verify and get an idea of, if this is your debt, and if you allow us and give us permission to speak to you about this debt. That's how that question and reach out from them is supposed to happen to you. They're not supposed to contact you with a letter or phone call and say, hey, is this you? Okay, well, you owe this amount of money to da 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 da. They're not actually it's not supposed to go like that. And that's how it usually does. They automatically assume that that's your debt, and they automatically start communicating with you about it instead of first asking you for consent to speak to you about it. That's what this is talking about. That right there is $1,000 that you would get paid. There's a certain time that they're allowed to communicate with you about the debt. They're not supposed to contact at your place of employment. That's another $1,000. And as you see here, it says, communication with third parties except as provided in section 1692B of this title. So if we click this, they have to identify themselves, and they cannot state that a consumer, you, owes any debt. And they're not supposed to communicate with you more than once unless requested to do so by you, or unless the debt collector reasonably believes that the earlier response of such person is erroneous or incomplete, and that such person now has correct or complete location information. And as you see here, not communicate by postcard. That's $1,000 if you ever get a postcard from a debt collector. And as you see here on number 5, the language or symbol of any envelope or the contents inside of it, meaning the letter and what they're talking about, it cannot indicate the debt collector is in the debt collection business or that the communication relates to the collection of a debt. And usually 99.9%, if not 100% of the time, when you get a letter from a debt collector, they are already talking about debt collection. $1,000. Here's another great thing that a lot of people don't know. This could help you in not even getting bad credit in the first place. If a consumer notifies a debt collector in writing that the consumer refuses to pay a debt, so if you write a letter and say you refuse to pay, or that consumer wishes the debt collector to cease further communication with the consumer, such as if you get a phone call, you say, do not call me no more. Or, you write them a letter saying, I cease, further communication from you. That debt collector shall not communicate with you further. So as you see, we clicked on this. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 other sections with multiple things in there. Now here's the thing. The minimum you should be rewarded for is about $1,000 easily. Now, if you literally go through all this, all the communications that you have with a debt collector, go through all this information. If I was you, they're quite frankly short. They're not all long. But if you simply scan through each section of all these and just gather up as much of these violations that they violated with, contact them, either phone call or email or letter, and let them know, saying, hey, here's a list of all the things you violated with. You called my unemployment. You contacted me talking about a debt without first, asking me permission and for my consent to speak on it, and et cetera, and say, these are all the violations. I want X amount of dollars to settle this, or I'm going to take you to court. And there's even people that actually send emails out to debt collectors or even give them a phone call, and then they actually end up settling for X amount of dollars. The minimum you would get is $1,000, but if you got multiple violations from one debt collector, and if you got multiple debt collectors in communication with you, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. Depending on how dramatic these violations were towards you, you could be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. As an example, that one guy that got awarded $1.5 million from a debt collector in court. If you have any accounts that are more than 7 years old that was in collections, $1,000. Now, you could get a letter just like this, a cease and desist letter to cease and desist communication with a debt collector. And if they contact you again, that's $1,000 violation. And you would only even write up this letter if they're talking to you about a debt without your consent. So you already got $1,000 right there. And if they still want to communicate with you even after you send out this letter, that's another violation. If you don't want to really write all of that, you could just do something very simple. You don't even have to type it up. You could just get a blank piece of paper or a notebook piece of paper and just write, I refuse to pay. Thank you, your name, with their address, and put it in a little envelope and mail it out to them. Certified mail though. You want to mail it out with proof. So if I was you, I would take a picture of that just so you could have records, because here's the deal. The more bad that they appear to look in court, the more likely you'll get rewarded more than $1,000. For an example, if you got a letter from a debt collector talking about you owe a debt, You already know that's $1,000 violation, but let's go ahead and take it a step further. Write up a cease and desist letter, or just a simple letter like this saying I refuse to pay. Take a picture of it, record it, maybe even get it notarized for free at Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Mail that out, certified mail. Keep a record of it, and if they continue to contact you, keep those records. If they call you, record those phone calls. If you're in a state like California where when they say all calls are monitored and recorded, you could record phone calls when they're talking to you and when you're talking to them. And you could literally just do these simple things to build a stronger case, to get more, to be able to like maximize how much money you'll be able to milk out of these guys. Because the main reason why that guy won $1.5 million from a debt collector in court was because he got a phone call from a debt collector. But that phone call was for his girlfriend, but they were talking to him as if he owed the money. And he recorded the entire phone call. And when he went to court, he pressed play. They listened to it. He was able to get up $1.5 million. Now, if he didn't record that, he probably wouldn't really got nowhere near $1.5 million. Now, it also says that even if you sue a debt collector, it still doesn't mean that you don't owe that debt, even though sometimes and a lot of times they not only pay you, but they also cancel out the accounts or cancel the debt. Now, if you want to remove things off your credit report, all you have to do is send in a dispute letter to dispute the debt. And they are never able to validate the debt, because for proper validation of a debt, it requires a wet signature. Every time when you apply for credit cards, 90% of the time, it's online, on computer, digitally. It's never wet signatures. If you have 10 debt collectors, third-party debt collectors in communication with you or have communicated with you about a debt, that's a minimum $10,000 right there. So now you know how regularly these debt collectors violate these federal laws. Now all you have to do is go on 15 USC 1692, read through some of it, find out and look for all the laws that they have violated against you. Gather up all those laws, copy and paste it, put it in an email, send it out, or give them a phone call. Let them know that they violated X amount of federal laws against you and you want to be compensated. And if they don't, then you're going to take them to federal court or small claims court. It's that simple. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.